So Keep Oklahoma Beautiful has been around since 1965. Our programs bring people and communities together for a cause. Oklahoma is a beautiful place, and I want to be a part of keeping it beautiful. That's what we do here.
Keep Oklahoma Beautiful as an association has been very valuable to the state. Having people want to come to Oklahoma.
Well, Oklahoma is a beautiful state, and we want to make sure we keep it that way because it's not just a single county issue. It's not just a major metropolitan areas need to keep things beautiful. It's all 77 counties. And of course, once again, that helps with quality of life and also recruitment of businesses and frankly, keeping businesses in our state.
And a vital part of tourism and recreation is to keep Oklahoma beautiful. Not make Oklahoma beautiful, but to keep it.
It's hard for me to imagine that there are other organizations in Oklahoma that turn out upwards of 50,000 volunteers to do good things for the rest of us.
So here at Keep Oklahoma Beautiful, we have so many projects and programs that affect all of the counties in Oklahoma. The Great American Cleanup, the Fresh Paint Days, the Litter Education Program, the Clean Community Program, our Lend a Bin program, our Secure Your Load campaign. So many things that we do ensuring that the citizens of the state of Oklahoma have a healthy, sustainable, beautiful environment.
The neat thing about Keep Oklahoma Beautiful is that they focus on many different programs in terms of educating our young people on how to preserve and enhance a beautiful environment, on how to recycle, on how to keep your community beautiful and how to make that environment sustainable into the future. They do so many wonderful things that government really can't do.
This is one of the only organizations statewide whose focus is on people and people doing good things for other people and for our communities and for our state and for our environment.
Keep Oklahoma Beautiful understands that government's hugely important in this process. But if somebody gave me a paintbrush and somebody gave me a broom, it's up to me to use them. And I think that partnership between our citizens and this wonderful nonprofit is a hugely significant one.
I think that KOB is so important because it is that first impression, the beautification in a community. When you cross that city boundary, that municipal boundary, how that community looks, I think that is what is most impactful. And that's how these affiliates and that's how these volunteers are really making a difference.
We are an affiliate member of Keep Oklahoma Beautiful, and we were amazed when we first joined. We only paid $150. And what does $150 buy for your organization? We were shocked. It was priceless.
One of the great stories is Marathon Oil Company. They've signed up 33 volunteers for a 3-hour stint and working with one of the affiliates, Serve More, to do some cleanup and more. And then 6 days before they were scheduled for that event, there was a tornado. More asked them to come in early. They did. They spent all day working on a site, a trailer park that had been hit. They provided free food for these neighbors in addition to all of the cleanup. Marathon Oil was awarded for that event at the Keep Oklahoma Beautiful Awards banquet and then contributed their check back again so that others can enjoy these same kind of programs.
And it's fun to see kind of that Oklahoma standard of everybody pulling together to make great things happen for the state. Keep Oklahoma Beautiful was essential during my term in helping us promote a good image of the state of Oklahoma. And I can still remember back in 2013, supported an initiative that was very important to me to get state vehicles converted over to natural gas. And it's a much cleaner source of energy. And so that was a lot of fun to work on that particular project.
Keep Oklahoma Beautiful meant to Cushing, Oklahoma, the ability to bring back Cushing Pride that had gone downhill. We didn't have a budget. There was no budget in the Cushing Pride program. It was because of Keep Oklahoma Beautiful campaign that let me start off with some equipment, the gloves, through the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Now we have pickup sticks, we have foundations, we have sponsorships, but the base starts right back at Keep Oklahoma Beautiful.
When you see people coming with nothing, but their passion and their love for their community and the state, and see what they accomplish, you can't go home without wanting to be part of that scene.
Keep Oklahoma Beautiful has been a wonderful partner to Oklahoma City Beautiful. We
get to learn more, we get to network with people across the state, and it's just been a huge benefit.
Ardmore Beautification Council has received several grants through Keep Oklahoma Beautiful, which has allowed us to improve our landscaping, to improve our environmental awareness.
I was shared the story of a small community. And as people drove into town thinking about having lunch, there was a little dilapidated house on the side of the road. The reaction of a number of people was, a place that has a wreck like that is not a place to visit. It's just not a nice place. Well, they found out it was an elderly woman. The community got together, redid the house, painted, fixed it up, obviously planted flowers and trimmed the yard. The community focused on her, and the community was elevated as a result. All of this was the result of the city clerk of that community contacting Keep Oklahoma Beautiful, and Keep Oklahoma Beautiful gave them a solution.
These affiliates, coordinated by Keep Oklahoma Beautiful, are given that opportunity to give back. The most important thing I can say to them is just thank you.
This spring, as an example, the volunteers have been able to defray about $8 million in costs to the state.
KOB and their volunteers are picking up the litter. That saved the state of Oklahoma millions of dollars that afforded us the opportunity to maintain roads and not pick up the litter.
Great American Cleanup addressed about over 2,000 miles of highway. That is very key and instrumental to our mission.
In our Great American Cleanup program, we have at least one community in all of our 77 counties. 100% county participation in the Great American Cleanup.
Not only what they do on that day, but the educational impact that they have from that day and their end litter programs is amazing.
I think it's inspiring to see the citizens groups that work on these projects with KOB accomplish things in their community and teach the next generation how we ought to live.
They have this ability to marshal volunteers from all across our state. I just want to say to all of those volunteers, all of the people who engage in the Keep Oklahoma Beautiful programming, thank you for what you do. It means so much to this state, and it makes such a tremendous difference.
The people of Oklahoma understand this is a great organization. It does what it says it's going to do. It's important to the state, and they want to be a part of it.
The entire state ought to have that mentality. We're going to make sure that this place looks beautiful because it is beautiful.
I'd love for you to join us because keeping Oklahoma beautiful all comes down to you. Hi, everyone. I see everybody's coming back. I hope you had a good lunch. I'm trying to get everybody situated here. Get our next speaker. There he is. As we rejoin, if you all will talk to us in the chat and let us know you're back and where you're joining us from. Thanks, Cushing. Hey, Lisa at Oklahoma City Beautiful. Hi, David. Man, everybody's coming back. Good. Thanks so much for joining us again. I hope you enjoyed the morning session if you were able to join that. We had some great speakers and some good questions. And for those of you who weren't here this morning, I'll go over some logistics for you.
We have, we're going to be doing that last hour in a regular, what you're more familiar with, Zoom, and everybody will be able to see each other and engage in conversation, and we'll have breakout rooms. Some of our speakers will join us there as well, so you can ask them any questions you may have thought of over your lunch. And there will be people, our affiliates, who you can ask questions if you're not an affiliate, or they like to get together and exchange best practices. So we'll have some breakout rooms during that last hour session, and everybody will be able to network and speak with each other. So this afternoon, we're going to have a couple of great speakers. I know when we send you the recordings of the videos, the PowerPoints that they've shared, the speakers have shared with us, we'll share with you. When we do all of that, we will send you a survey. I know every time we have a workshop, we share a survey. And I was telling our next speaker that every time, even if we had a recycle program that day, recycling is one of the most important things that our workshop attendees like to discuss and talk about. So our next speaker is one of my favorite speakers to hear on this subject. He helps those of us, I told him just yesterday that in my own home, I kept telling myself, quit wish cycling. So got to be more mindful of what really does recycle, how not to contaminate that recycling stream. And Robert's one of Oklahoma's best people to talk about that. And you'll enjoy his talk. And then our last speaker before our afternoon networking session will be Chuck Rawls of Comanche. He's one of our star affiliates out there of the many we have. And he's the city manager of Comanche, and he's going to talk to us about how to unmask the potential of your community. I hope you get what we did there, or he did there. But that'll be a good talk too. I'm going to keep talking to you, or I see people are talking in the chat. Remember to use that little blue bar that tells you who you're talking to, so to be sure that you're getting to, everybody is seeing that you're saying hello. And we'll give everybody a little more time to rejoin us from lunch. Our office just had pizza right here, so we're all back and ready to start. Now remember, if you have questions, there is a Q&A button along the bottom of your screen, since this is the webinar forum. So you can ask the questions there to be sure we don't miss them in the chat, or you can ask them in the chat and I'll do my best to monitor that and remember during the course of the speaking that there was a question there. So, and I have my notebook this time to take notes. So as we are letting people join, we're going to wait till right at time. I started a little bit early this morning, so I'm going to do a little bit better this afternoon. We will have also, we'll have printed versions of the chat section, so you can see if any comments in there could be something that could be helpful to you later. I know that Matt from ACOG was sharing some good information there, as were David Timmons and Chuck Rawls. So if you have something to share about something they're speaking about, put it in that chat, and then everybody can have a copy of that chat later when we're sharing all of these pieces of this workshop with you all. We may wind up doing kind of a Google page, so that, because I think everything we're going to want to attach is going to be too big for just one specific email, but we'll work that out and we'll get that out to you, like I said, in the next days. People are still joining, Robert. So I'm go ahead and start talking about, I've got 1 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and Robert Pickens is, I know him because we served together on the OKRA board, which is the Oklahoma Recycling Association. And he was a great asset to that board. He has been a great partner to Keep Oklahoma Beautiful with his organization, the American Waste Control in Tulsa. And their MRF is a place to go and see and learn really how all of that works. It's a fun day trip to go see that and see how it works. But I will go ahead and turn it on over to you, Robert. We are at 1:01, and go ahead. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. You are on mute. I know what happened. Try now. Talk.
Okay, good afternoon. Can you hear me? All right, great. I'll go ahead and get this going. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the 1 o'clock recycling. And today, the objective is to get you a better understanding of exactly when recycling programs are put together, what's normally accepted. There may be some items I covered today that may not be accepted in a recycling program where you're at, but just general rules and what a recycler is looking at to keep contamination down, non-recyclable items. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about who we are up here, what we're doing, and then get right into the recycling and try to hopefully break some of the myths that are out there, or try to make it easier for you to recycle better at home in your programs. Also, we can talk about drop-off sites. We actually operate some of those too. So a lot of my content's going to include a lot towards drop-off sites. So for more in the rural areas, the concepts still apply, even though the application may be a little bit different. But the first slide here, what this is many people are surprised, but Oklahoma manufacturers use recyclables. So Oklahoma ranks 3rd in the nation for having the most manufacturers that use recyclables to produce a packaging or the product that or the product itself. And that's really pretty amazing when you look at it overall in our state. We just have a robust use for recyclables. American Waste Control is the 52nd largest waste hauling company in the country. We operate a hauling division for both commercial and residential waste and recycling services. The recycling facility that I am at here at Tulsa Recycle and Transfer, it's also a transfer station, and we also have a dump facility for the public. And then we also have our energy from waste landfill, which is just west of Sand Springs out there. But what we have here is we have 2 recycling programs that we conduct here in Tulsa. The first is our curbside recycling that we offer for communities that we service. And then also what we had and started with originally was our Mr. MRF drop-off site. And what it was is for those in an area that might have had the Abitibi program back in the day, it's very, very similar to that. We have front load containers that we have a district within the Tulsa metro area that we have those placed. We have bin sponsors, and people that do not have curbside recycling available to them, or might be multifamily housing where they live that doesn't have curbside that way, they can come to our bins and recycle. And that participation is a mixed recycling program, and we can accept all the items that we do at the curb with the exception of glass. Glass is the only item that we do not accept. Our bin sponsors would prefer glass not be accepted just because of the ability for it to be broke if it gets transported from the vehicle to the bin. They just don't want that broken glass there. So we do not do the glass at that. But that is a still very popular program here in Tulsa. Most of the metros actually have curbside recycling now, but our bins are still very popular, and we're still collecting over 70,000 pounds per day of mixed recyclables off that bin program, and it's accessible 24/7. So we try to make this as convenient as possible for people to be able to recycle that doesn't have curbside recycling available to them. And our curbside program, we're servicing over 22,000 homes. We're averaging a 94% participation rate. But the big thing that we look at when it comes to it is education and ongoing education. I'm going to get into that a little further in the presentation. So this is a snapshot of our facility here in Tulsa. It was built in 2012. We were awarded the agreement for processing and marketing of recyclables for the city of Tulsa. So we constructed this system. It will process recyclables at 40,000 pounds per hour. We have belt speeds of 65 feet per minute that our quality control people are at. We have optical sorters. We have eddy currents for separating aluminum and magnets for separating the steel cans. So this overall is a snapshot of the facility. The recyclables will come into these doors here, tip on the tipping floor, and then enter into the system from here and cross over. This is our pre-sort, and this is where items that are not recyclable would be removed. And then the first two things that happen is we accept glass in our programs here. So the glass is removed because it is so abrasive, and then the cardboard because it's bulky. And then after that, it introduces to our screens. And from there, we start separating paper away from containers. The paper will come through here for a final inspection by quality control people. And all the containers will come up this belt and get introduced here. We remove the steel cans at the magnet. This red device here is our eddy current, and it actually separates the aluminum away from the plastics at that point. And then the plastics will travel here and enter through one of two optical sorters. The first optical sorter will separate pop bottles and water bottles, milk jugs, detergent bottles, and tub containers like a Cool Whip tub or cottage cheese or butter tubs. And then after that, the tub containers and the jugs, the milk jugs, detergent bottles will come down, and then this final optical will separate them by color, if they're clear or they're colored bottle. So it finishes the process. Over here is our glass cleanup system, where we go ahead and remove some non-recyclable items from it. Also caps or corks, other caps that may have been left on the glass is removed. Over in this other building, we also offer mixed recycling for commercial and industrial businesses. And this is what takes place over in this site. So here, what we're doing is we're going ahead and removing the cardboard, and then all the other recyclables will drop on the floor here to be introduced to this system on this side. So we're processing 7.8 million pounds of recyclables per month on our residential and our commercial businesses. So here is a screen where the cardboard gets removed. Down here is where glass will get broke. And we have over 60% of the glass that comes in is still either whole or at least half. It's not broken yet. And that's very surprising to a lot of people through the collection process. But what we want to do is we want to allow the system to break the glass because it allows it to be used back in the jars and bottles versus blown in and encapsulated insulation. And it's kind of a long process, but if anybody's interested in it, I can go into detail later how that goes. And then after that, the cardboard will travel across the top of the screen. It will not be able to pass through these openings. These openings here is where the smaller paper and the containers will pass through. So that's just a quick snapshot if you have the recyclables picked up at the curb, because Oklahoma City has two facilities just like ours down there that collect your recyclables and process them there. So if you haven't had an opportunity to be able to see that, this is what a screen looks like. And recyclables are separated through these systems by its dimensional size, whether it's two-dimensional, three-dimensional, and also by its weight. So here's a cutout of the side where we start removing glass and cardboard first. And what it does is as the recyclables move through the system, it's separating it using the screening technology. After items are separated, that's where our quality control people fall into place to make sure that everything is separated correctly. And I'm going to get into some of the reasons why it may not separate an item a little bit later into the presentation, where we're kind of breaking some of those myths. But that's how it travels through and starts that separation process. So as you can see, this isn't where recyclables come in and we have a long conveyor and we have lots of people up there hand sorting every item out. This is an automated process that moves quite quickly. At the end of our day, though, we have a lot of cleaning to do. And this is a picture of our paper screen. And one of the nemesis or the Achilles heel of a recycling facility is going to be plastics, film plastics specifically, or anything that can tangle is going to be a setback, because as you can see through there, we have a lot of things that roll and wind around. So plastic bags, being very flexible, will wrap around items. Also clothing will do the exact same thing. So every day we spend about an hour per day cleaning these screens, and we use carpet knives to help cut that out, and also air die grinders also to get in there and remove that to open those screens back up to where it allows it to separate recyclables back out. So for us, it goes into a sense that we have to educate our customers on what recyclables should go into bin or the recycle cart. So that's really important to us to get that out there and make them understand, here's what you can recycle in our program, and here's some items that you may think is recyclable, but we're going to give you the tools to verify if it is acceptable in our program or not. And that's where we're going to go to next. So as we look at this in front of us, we are dealing with basically 4 generations that we are trying to educate. Every single one of them learns differently or takes information in differently. But what our main focus is we're focusing on those that generate waste. So they have the purchasing power, as we put it. So they're actually making those purchases every day. So that is where a lot of our focus goes to, is those folks that purchase everyday items that you need. The Gen Z generation, those are the school age. What we're doing there is we have an observation area here, and we're allowing them to come in for tours and be able to explain the process. But what we look at is they're kind of a captive audience for us. We're going to be able to work with them through the school systems to educate them on recycling as they move through. So we know they're going to be raised with a more recycling mentality, and that their recycling habits will be somewhat automatic versus the other generations where maybe recycling is brand new to us. And in Oklahoma, for many of us, it is, because curbside recycling has just been introduced within the last 8 years to most of our communities out there. So we're actually first generation recyclers and very new at it. So we needed to figure out our captive audience first and how they take information in to make sure that our educational material is effective in what we do. So the one thing that we realized really very quickly is when recyclables come in, and it doesn't matter if you're mixing your recyclables together or if you have a drop-off site that's a sort separated item from there, is getting people to recycle in the correct area of the house. When people say we want to recycle at home, you're kind of sending a message to the entire home. Well, that's not necessarily true when you look at what recycling is accepted in most of the programs. So the 3 areas of the home that we want to focus our customers on is the kitchen, the laundry, and the bathroom. Those 3 areas is where you're going to generate 80% of the waste that's generated in your home is going to be those 3 areas. Also, that is where predominantly the majority of the recyclables are going to be generated inside the home. The areas that we like to ask our customers not to recycle in is the garage, the shed, and the yard. And in those particular photos, I can assure you, since we've started up recycling, everything that you can see in there, we've received through this recycling facility. And this message is, we found, is the most important. So a lot of our material content is directing people on what areas of the home we want them to recycle in and what areas of the home we do not want them to recycle in. And we find out if we focus on that message and keep it simple, then we keep our contamination rates down. Now, granted, as we saw earlier, it's not absolutely a perfect model, but it sure cuts the contamination down to the extent where it's manageable for us. And what I mean by that is when you look at items generated from these 3 areas, the garage, shed, and yard, they're usually larger, bulky items, or they're items that could cause harm to our workers. And this is an example of those 3 areas of things that we would deal with. So we would get automobile parts up here, and everything you can see on that automobile, I can assure you, we've had in here. We've received engine blocks in here before. It's crazy. We've gotten bumpers in here before from automobiles. The plastic yard signs is another thing, along with the metal from there. These are items that we cannot handle in here. We've had chain, it's a tangler from there. lighter fluid, because if you accept plastics, many of the items in the garage and the shed and the yard are plastic items. So again, here you have a flammable item. This particular lighter fluid bottle is made from the same plastic resin as your water bottle is. So we'll get into plastics in a little bit, but you can see where a lot of confusion in these recycling programs can evolve. We've received yard tools in there before. Why? Because they're metal. If you do not educate properly, words do matter, you will end up getting items in there you don't want. So words do matter. When we speak about what we accept, we call them cans. We never say the word metal when we're educating on what we accept in here, because if I say the word metal, you have different images in your mind. If I say the word cans, you have a different image in your mind. So we're very careful on how we present what we will accept in our programs. Petroleum products, motor oil, and for a lot of people, it's very confusing because those people say, well, plastics are made from petroleum products. Why can't you take a motor oil? Well, the thing about it is our end users they wash and grind the plastic. And during that wash process, they have to return that water back in the same or better condition in which they received it in. And those petroleum products are going to make it difficult for them to do that from there. Propane bottles, once again, people look at this and say, well, it's metal, you can throw it in your recycle cart. These are obviously a combustible. 2 years ago, we had one of these tanks get through and ended up getting in our baler. And when the baler shears, when it makes a bale, which is a large cube, when I talk about a shear, it's like a pair of scissors cutting paper. It sheared one of those tanks, it exploded and literally shook our entire facility, which is right around 85,000 square foot, shook the entire building. It blew 1.5-inch plexiglass windows and shattered them whatsoever. And that was a tank. It was likely empty, so you just have the residual left in it. So again, very important that we want to avoid areas from that part of the home in the recycling. And flower pots, once again, we're getting into organics and the dirt, but the flower pot itself, we could accept that in our programs, but we don't like to promote that in a sense from there. If somebody asks us on a one-on-one basis or through a chat on email, we will explain to them, yes, we can, but here's what you need to do. We normally are not getting that overall. What we have to do is focus our efforts on the majority of our customers overall. From there, an avid recycler will ask us about flower pots, but most recyclers will not. What we find out in our data is most people want to recycle. It makes them feel good. They feel like they're doing the right thing for the planet, and they just want to recycle, but it's not going to be something they're going to be, just passionate about from there. So our objective is to make them good recyclers, so at least they understand what they can place in the recycle cart and what they should not place in the recycle cart. So here are the items that we accept in our recycling program. We have our steel and aluminum cans. We accept cartons in our program. I know this may not be an item that's accepted in a lot of programs, but we do accept that. We accept glass, like we talked about earlier, all the paper products, and then the plastics. We do not use resin codes, and I'm going to get into that next reason why we don't use resin codes. But you'll notice in our photos, everything's clean. We've got caps on all of our plastics and lids on our tubs because that's what we want. And the paper items, we show a cereal box back here along with some junk mail and some other things, but you'll note we have a pizza box right there. And we do these things intentionally because we find that most of our customers are visual learners. They're going to look at items quickly, they're going to go off the photo, and that's how they're going to recycle. They won't necessarily read the words. So we don't get very wordy. You'll see there's just a few words underneath, but we've learned to not get wordy in our presentation. Glass, you'll notice there's no caps, lids, or anything on any of the glass. We show all three colors of glass in there, and we specifically state bottles and jars only. And I'll get into glass in a little bit as well too. Down below, we're focusing on 6 items. What we find out is once you get past 6 items when you're trying to educate on a large scale, you lose the message. You've got to keep it simple in your messaging. So as a MRF, we're identifying items that come in every day that should not be in the recyclables. This is the 6 most common items that we receive every day in the recyclables. So we're focusing on those 6 items to keep out. That's going to be your styrofoam, plastic bags you saw earlier. Also, do not bag recyclables or put bags of trash in the recycling from there. But this is something big. A lot of people will bag the recyclables. They're afraid, well, we don't want it to blow out. But it doesn't really, recyclables don't really blow out that easily out of the back of trucks and everything from there. But also, we do not have the means to debag the materials out of the plastics. We have conveyor speeds when it first gets introduced at 65 feet a minute. Our workers would never have the time to remove recyclables from a bag. Plus, they don't know for sure that that is going to be recyclables. So we ask people to place recyclables loose in the cart because we do want to kind of roll them up when they come on the floor and mix them up occasionally. Food and liquid waste, clothing, we get a lot of clothing. People believe, and a lot of times in a recycling facility, when you're taking a lot of items, that you could also handle clothing. And this a lot of times comes into wish recycling is where we see with clothing. And it's also, they also look at it as being a more of a convenient way to recycle or donate their clothing than taking it to the center. So we have to remind our customers that we do not do any clothes donation programs whatsoever. And the last item is tanglers. I showed you some of that earlier, but there's also tanglers in the house. There's extension cords, there's wiring within electronics. And that's something else that we have to educate on a separate matter. So we try not to overload, but these 6 items here specifically is what we're educating on. But back on glass, one thing we do with glass is we do send that message, bottles and jars only from the refrigerator in the kitchen food pantries. And we leave it at that because there's other glass items throughout the household, mirror glass, plate glass. And what we do is we always stress the message of jars and bottles only. So if your program accepts glass, it's going to be jars and bottles only in your program. I find very few programs that are going to allow more than that. There is a processor, a glass processor at the Kansas City market that comes in Oklahoma that would allow more items in. But I can assure you, this is one of the things when you start a program, you want to keep it very simple. It's easy to add items later. But what we've found in my 35 years in this business is businesses come and go. And if you lock on with a customer that's accepting other glass items and then they go away, your next glass processor may not be able to accept those items. So you're better to keep it simple. Plus, predominantly, this is what you're going to find in the waste stream that you want to keep out when you look at glass is going to be bottles and jars. It's not going to be so much your candles and or other decorative types of items from there. It's going to be mainly beverages and also food type items from there. So on plastics, this is something we get asked a lot of. It used to be glass a lot more, but plastics, it's in our life everywhere. Anything and everything we do is made from plastics. So we thought about this. We wanted to keep a simple message. And here's the reason why, is plastics, as most people realize, has what they call a number. And that's called a resin code. And that resin code is used for plastic manufacturers to help identify the resin so that when they're generating or creating a product, they know the melting point of it, they know the strength of it, they know the pliability of it, and that's what it is. Well, we kind of hijacked those numbers in the recycling, and what we started to do is start using those to say, hey, recycle these numbers here. Well, what's happening is those same resins can be used for other items which we may not be able to accept. And the example is a milk jug is a number 2 plastic, but also a plastic bag that you get from a retailer or a grocery store is also number 2. So if you're saying we accept number 2 plastics, you're going to cause confusion because people are going to look at it and they're going to look at that plastic bag and say, that says number 2, I can put it in my recycling. So you want to step back from that and say, okay, we've got to be careful. So we moved away from that. So what we did is we identified plastics. If it's a bottle, a jug, a tub, a cup, or a bucket, it's accepted in our programs. Is it perfect? No. But we also go on to say we want rigid, if we, on a shorter term, we'll say we want rigid bottles and containers. So we're always using the word rigid in there, meaning it's going to be something solid, kind of hard, and to send that message through there. But again, we're keeping it simple. Now, not all programs will accept a bucket or a cup or maybe even a tub. It just may be bottles and jugs only, and detergent bottles may be the only 2 that are accepted. But for our program, we do it, and we need to come up with a simple way. because when we're asked questions, we're watching on what we get asked the most about and what questions are we being asked about. And plastics is always going to be number one for us. So we're trying to come up with an easy way to help our customers identify what types of plastics that we want and don't want. Now, with that message, there's also some plastics that could be rigid. Styrofoam is actually one of those items that's kind of rigid. So we do have to kind of go separate and say, please no styrofoam. But film plastics are predominantly what we're going to see besides the bottle, the jug, the tub, the cup, and the bucket. And for a lot of programs, you want to keep film plastics out. As far as your shopping bags, there are retailers and grocers that will accept those back. I know during the pandemic, some of those programs are shut down. Some have gone ahead and started back up since then from there. And they may accept more items than just the bags, but predominantly most of them accept just the single-use bags from there. The heat shrink plastics that come off the bottles and stuff, all that needs to go into the trash from there unless you have a program that accepts that separately. But film plastics and styrofoam are the two items that we will focus on independently within our programs to educate our customers, because it is so prominent in the items that they purchase every day. So we know they're going to be seeing that. So here we've got some of the myths that we run into that people talk about. Pizza boxes, is it recyclable? Is it not recyclable? It depends on your program. In curbside recycling, in our program, we accept it because we have a few small rules about it, because it is good cardboard. And all we're looking for is please remove the leftovers. Don't leave pizza in the box still. And we also let them know if there's cheese or is heavy grease stained on it, just remove the good portion of the box and place that in the recycling and throw the greasy part or the cheese part, organic part, in the trash can. But we get asked a lot about pizza boxes, and they are very recyclable. If it's got a light grease stain or it might have a little crust stuck to it, it's going to be okay in most programs because we're processing and shipping recyclables so quickly, it's not going to be an issue when it comes to rodents or insects. At drop-off sites, they may not accept those items because if there is any organics left on it, it can attract bugs and or rodents in there. Programs differ, so when we look at this, we want to go ahead and leave caps and lids on, but many programs want to remove them, the caps and lids, because they might have processing equipment they have to compress those plastics with. Here, we're using high-density balers, and most recycling facilities, even the ones in Oklahoma City, are going to be using very high-end compaction equipment. So our baler applies 225,000 pounds per square inch of force. So it is going to go ahead and get that plastic pulled in. But the caps and the lids are very recyclable. In fact, the caps and lids are the same plastic resin that they make tub containers and cups from, and kitty litter buckets many times. Removing labels, that is something that you do not have to do when it comes, whether it's steel cans or whether it's plastic bottles, label can stay on. And then also flattening containers. You may be asked to do that, and for a lot of people, it leaves more room in the cart. But what we find is don't crush cans and don't crush the steel can or the aluminum can, because again, what it's doing is it's changing its shape. And for instance, an aluminum can is three-dimensional in shape and it's light in weight, but going through our system, it will end up on the container line. But as soon as it's flattened, it now takes on a two-dimensional shape and it's light in weight like paper, it will travel and end up on our paper lines. That's where our quality control people will remove that can and then they place it down a chute that takes it back around to the container side. So we're still recovering it, but it's something that's not necessary. So we're always encouraging customers, do not flatten your containers, leave them whole. So these are just some of the things that you may want to cover in your program if you start to see those. And if you are running a program or at home, do not do or check into for recycling at home. So part of the challenges that we run at here at the recycling facility and our customers are running into every day is the changes in product. So here we've got mac and cheese in a traditional box, and in many recycling programs, that box would be recyclable, but then they go ahead and get the to-go or the quick packs over here. Well, that container is actually made from styrofoam. It doesn't look it. It will have a different texture feel to it versus a tub container. But again, not many people are experts at recycling. They wouldn't necessarily know that for sure, and they place that in the recycling container. with it from there. So what we look at is it comes through, our people are educated and trained on how to look for these containers and try to remove them, but also we're using an optical sorter. So if it should get to the optical sorter, our optical sorter will identify that it is a styrofoam or an EPS number 6, and will actually eject it and remove it from the plastic stream. Here's another item, and this is where I'm just going grocery shopping with my wife and finding this all the time. I kind of look at this, but here, this container would be recyclable, but the pouch pack would not. And we always ask ourselves, geez, why are they doing this? And I got to speak to some marketing people one day, and I said, well, we're constantly changing it up because weight matters. So when they're shipping their product, the more product they can fit on the truck and keep the weight down, the lower their cost is. And I thought, oh, well, that explains it, because this container right here is about 365% heavier than that pouch pack bag by itself before you even look at the contents going into it. So you can get more of this on a truck to a store at a lower cost overall than if you're shipping these containers. So we're seeing this. We can't accept this pouch pack, but we can this. So these are changes that are taking place. But again, in the home, it can get rather confusing when you're buying a product and then you see it change. It's like, well, okay, they can still accept it. We educate our customers. If it has the word bag in it, it's bad. And a lot of people refer to this as a bag instead of a pouch pack. But we say if it's got the word bag in it, don't recycle it unless it's paper. And here's another example of a pouch pack that went from a steel can to a pouch pack. Again, it's about weight. It's 425% lighter, the pouch pack, over the steel can from here. And then again, they can get more on it. But what I found interesting also, speaking to the product people further, is they could put this on an end cap where it gets higher exposure and more sales. So again, we're being marketed to, and or they can fit more of this in the same space and maybe take up less space on the grocery store shelf than the can. So there's reasons why we see this. Also, when you kind of look at it, if this should not make it to a recycling facility, basically the end life is actually less with the pouch pack than it is with the steel can. So if the steel can doesn't get recycled, the pouch pack doesn't get recycled, this will basically decompose quicker than this will. So as far as its cycle life, it's actually shorter. So what we have to do is get our message out. We talked about that earlier. We're going across 5 generations. When we start a program, this is just an example of a trifold that we've used. You'll notice we're using the exact same type art items. Also, one thing that we do is we include the vector art item up in the corner. A lot of times we prefer photo art, but that's not possible at all items from there. We'll use the vector art items, and what we're trying to do is just plant that image in our customer's mind, so when they see that, they also remember the photo art item and they'll recycle the right things. We're still focusing on those 6 items, and here we're doing a little FAQ for them because it's the launch of a program, so we're reinforcing some of the most common questions that we're getting with that overall, just to help customers. Most people, when they get this, they hang on to it and kind of use that as an education guide, is what we've noticed. So that's why we like to use this. This is probably one of the items that we receive up front that's probably hung on inside the home more than anything else. When I visit friends that I have in communities that we're recycling with, I usually will see this on a counter, or I'll see it somewhere within the house. And here, what we're trying to do is reinforce, once again, do not place any items from the garage, shed, or yard into the recycling here. So it's another way we can get our message back out and keep it moving forward. What we also do, what we find very, very effective in our programs, is if you can get your message inside the home. And inside the home meaning in an item which is going to be useful to your customer. So this is a refrigerator magnet that we send out as part of the launch of a program. And again, what we do is we like to put the type of container, so they're always seeing what the recycled container looks like. But once again, here's the items we can accept, and then here's the 6 most common items we do not accept. We made this useful. We found out that the average life of a refrigerator magnet is 7 years. So therefore, that's what we wanted to go with, is something that would stay out in front of them, and they can put their pickup day right there. either that's for the husband or for the kids to remember when to take the recycle and the waste cards out from there. So this is something that's, it's 3 by 5 in size, and it's just a quick reference guide when they're in the kitchen, can this be recycled or not be recycled? The item that we have brought to the home that has been the most impactful and helpful to our customers has been our recycle tote. This was designed in mind to fit predominantly 2 to 3 days worth of recyclables for a family of 4. It was also designed in size to fit a large pizza box, since we accept pizza boxes. What we find is that most people will bag the recyclables because they have nothing else to put them in. So they'll bag it, take it out to the recycle cart and place the bag in there and all. So this was our way to combat that and help educate at the same time. So as you can see, the items we accept is on the sides from there. We keep that message out in front of them, and it has a handle on the bottom, so when they tip that out, and they can just go ahead and hang on to it, so it's easy to hang on to when they tip the contents out. We also attach a little postcard to that, which explains, we got photos to that, how to use it. It would seem, quite easy, but it's our way of just, once again, being able to communicate with our customer and get a little bit of their time because everybody's so busy. This is the end caps. Now here, what we're doing is we're exceeding our 6 items that we really focus on, but these are also common items that we find in the recycle bin. You'll notice we do a heavy concentration on glass through this program here, because this is the most common glass items we'll find inside the home that may be thrown in there, and our glass cleanup system doesn't have the ability to remove this. So it's an extra education point, but it's a quick reference guide. What we find out is our customers, we have a saying, when in doubt, check it out. Go to feedmrmurph.com. If you don't want to check it out, throw it out. We would rather have them place it in the trash than place it in the recycle cart and be wrong, just because of the cost of contamination, both on the processing side and the removal and disposal side for that. So we use this as kind of a bigger detailed picture of what to keep out of the recycle cart. Also, another means that we do is we do our own collection in those communities. This is our tag that we place on the cart. If our drivers and our helpers are tipping a cart and they see some items in there that shouldn't be, they check those items here and they put it in. We start with the orange tag first. If it continues, then they will check the items placed in here and not tip the cart. They'll leave the cart full, and then the customer will have to remove those items and place the cart back out to the road. So it's a reminder for them. On the back of the card, this is what it looks like. Both cards will look in the same manner from here. So we're reinforcing the items that we do accept. If they have questions, they can go to the website, they can call us. We're trying to make it, as easy as possible to communicate with the customer. But it's our way of being able to, once again, get that message in and educate them. And you'll notice that there was more than 6 items on that card. There's a 7th. And that 7th is going to be bulky items from the garage, shed, and yard. That's normally that one there will be checked when we're finding those items from those 3 areas. So this particular material will have 7 items, but we usually will stick just to the 6. Another thing that we do, because what we find out with baby boomers, and also one generation that we don't have on there is also the silent generation, is they're readers. They will read more from there. So we could send them content out with a lot of verbiage and they would read everything. But what we find is predominantly Gen X, millennials, they don't read that much. They're really visual. They look at quick stuff. So we created a postcard, and this is a small postcard. So it's something they can flip back and forth. And this is an ongoing education piece for us to do. So it'll obviously have the address label here, but we're always sending that message: do not place plastic bags in the recycle cart, return to retailer or grocer. Over here, we're also reinforcing that message of do not bag your recyclables from here. But then we're sending 2 messages of items we don't want in a recycle cart. And what we did is these are snapshots from our social media and our website campaigns. Basically our Home For program is what we're using here. So we have lots of those. We can generate them very easily and then push them out through social media, but we also use them for this piece here, and it's just a reinforcement that we can go ahead and let our customers know, our curbside customers know, don't place those in there. A lot of the same material we use for our Mr. Murph bins, but we'll apply that to our website and also Some of this, our bins are also branded to explain some of this as well. But what we find is our customers that visit our bins will have a tendency to go to our website and get information if they're not sure. So again, these are just two more things for our Home For. We keep the message very plain, very simple, very quick from there. Again, we do the mailer in a postcard versus a mailer that's an envelope. And the reason why is most people will see an envelope, they'll look at it as junk mail and just toss it. They'll never look at it. The postcard, a lot of people will flip them real quick just out of curiosity to see what it has. So we realize we're spending about 38 cents for that postcard, but we realize for about 5 to 7 seconds of a customer's attention. But with the message that we're showing, we believe that's all that's necessary for them to understand, hey, don't place this in the cart. We also send them out to reminders. We'll also have plastic bottles on there, as you can see here, and we'll do the same thing on the mailer of what we want in the program. So we're reinforcing it both ways. And you'll notice in there, please flatten cardboard. On this side, replace caps and lids back on bottles. This is another example. We push these out as well too, because we do get electronics in the recycling. So we're doing this again, both through social media, but also in our postcards and where they can take it. Because one thing we found out, if you just say, we don't accept electronics, they're gonna ask why, where do I go? How do I do it? They're gonna ask those questions. So if you can help provide them with that answer up front, it's gonna be less likely you're still gonna get it in your recycling bin at a drop-off site or in the cart. Same thing with the bags over here, return to retailer, return to grocer. Down here, we kind of used a little website that's very handy that will help out too, filmplasticrecycling.org. You can go there, type in your zip code of your town, and it'll tell you places that accept plastic bags or film plastic recycling. And then the nice thing about the web is it helps us with content, anything that came up. So obviously with the COVID-19, we started receiving gloves and face masks into our recycle carts. We had to act immediately. So we pushed this message out both on social media. We did a postcard mailer, and then we also work with the medical supplies. Diabetics specifically is what we're focusing on here overall, but we push this card out as well too. And then we also will do the same thing. A lot of times this message will be tied in with pharmaceuticals, and then we also provide them information on where they can take their medication if they don't need that any longer. So it's just another way for us to get a message out quickly. But what we focus on a lot is social media. We find out that with the exception of maybe older baby boomers and the silent generation, most people are on the web doing something. So we try to get ourselves visible on a lot of the chats or areas that we can post photos on. We're predominantly really working hard on Facebook a lot of times. We do some work in Twitter as well too, and also YouTube. We'll do a series of videos. What we find also is people would rather watch a 15 to 30-second video on how to recycle correctly. So we'll do videos. We've got a Christmas video that we had posted during the holiday times. People can click on and go straight to that. But having that on YouTube as well as our website is a great way to be able to just get that message out and make ourselves accessible and easy to get in touch with. On our website, our customers can also send us an email. They can include pictures also. Can this go in a recycle bin? And what we noticed is we'll usually get 5 to 10 of those a week. But when we had shelter in place take place, people were at home and they had more time on their hands. They couldn't get out. So we ended up getting 25 to 30 a day during our 2-month period of time. I had a lot of emails to reply to. It was exhausting, but it was exciting because people were reaching out saying, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about this recycling. If they didn't quite understand something that they may have had already, they were asking questions. Most of our questions were coming from our Mr. Murph drop-off sites, but we had a lot of curbside people asking questions as well as they were purchasing items. They were asking, hey, can I place this type of packaging in the recycle? Can I do this? Can I do that? Also, a lot of people started cleaning out closets and other things, and they started asking a lot of questions. Did we accept some of these items in our recycling? So that's kind of, hopefully this was helpful to you today to kind of just give you some ideas, maybe how to look at your education if you are responsible for getting that message out, or if you're recycling at home, kind of the basics of a recycle program, how to just keep it simple and where you might be able to go to reach out. In rural areas, it is a little more complicated from there. What we find is we make everything that's going to be friendly on a mobile device. And in rural areas, we really, when we talk to our customers out there, we really encourage them to make all of their communications really mobile friendly, because that's how most people are looking at it anyway, even here. But we also understand the internet's not always as strong out in rural areas, but their cell phone coverage usually will help them out. So we try to stay away from a lot of banners or moving items on our websites as well too. We find that that takes up more space, so that makes it easier for our customers to also get information easily and quickly without things locking up. One last word on that is that if you are a hub area, what I mean by that is you might be out in a more rural area that you have a robust recycling program. You also have to remember you're going to be getting a lot of participation from the surrounding communities. Those people coming in to shop in your town, they're going to see your recycling, check onto that, and they're going to recycle at your location as well too. So as you make changes, you want to remember people from outside your community are also visiting your drop-off sites, and you got to want to make sure that you're getting your message out correctly to them as well too. That'll be very helpful. So, well, thank you for listening, and I will turn this back over to Jeanette.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Before you go away, I do have several questions. One of the first questions we got was, if a lighter fluid jug or the oil jugs are recyclable plastic, if they were washed really good, could they be recycled?
Yes, what we tell our customers, if they specifically ask, is on oil, petroleum products, turn it upside down and let it drain for 24 hours, and then cap it, and then they can place it into recycling, whether it's the bin or not. When it comes to the lighter fluid from there, we prefer to not place that at all in there. It's going to be very difficult to rinse that particular product out because plastic is porous, and that will contract into the pores of the plastic. And what we're looking at is residual fluid left, but also the fumes, because we want the cap on an item. So what it's going to do is it's going to build up pressure in there. And if it comes to our system and catches on equipment, we could still have a flash fire, or we could have just a small explosion take place that could catch paper on fire. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Don't do that then. The next question was kind of along the same lines about if we did it different. The plastic corrugated, like garage sale or politic signs, if they take the metal frame out, but just recycled the corrugated plastic?
That corrugated plastic is made from the same resin that a tub container or a cup's made from. It's a number 5 polypropylene. The difficulty with yard signs is they're using vinyl. They're using a decal that's vinyl, or they're using an ink on there that the end user does not like. And that's why those signs are usually not accepted in curbside programs, because they don't like them mixed in with detergent bottles, and they don't like them in with their tubs. Also, some signs are actually made from a number 2, but they're normally a number 5 plastic, but they don't like them mixed in there. There are some programs out there that will take place after elections or after large events where they'll collect those signs, and as long as they're not a vinyl decal has been applied to it and it's more just ink, or somebody has written on there with a ink marker, a lot of times they'll have programs where they can accept those.
Okay. I think I get that. I know that, I live in Edmond, and Edmond doesn't accept glass or 3 through 7. So yeah, it just would not be recyclable in Edmond.
Right, it wouldn't be recyclable, period. And that's why it's important to really check what your location offers. And like I said, when in doubt, check it out from there. But again, that's why we really stress, kitchen, laundry, bath, recycle from, yard, garage, and shed, no recycling. Even though we realize there could be some items in there, overall, we're trying to send a large message out among a lot of people. So, but when I do get those individual messages like that, I can usually let them know they can. And I get a lot with oil antifreeze like that, and we just let them know as long as they drain it thoroughly, we'll be okay. Our end user's fine with it.
Next question is, it's windy in Oklahoma, and if we're telling them not to bag their recyclables, how do we keep them from blowing away in the wind?
Well, that's going to be the responsibility of your collection company in general. A lot of times when they're coming, they'll have a couple extra guys out there. If they've ever looked at the trucks closed, we have shovels and rakes on our trucks. And what we'll do a lot of times, one guy will go ahead and get ready. One will tip that cart, and the other will kind of hold it with a rake down in there, or they'll have the clamshell on the back end. The wiper blade will be positioned where they can sweep it right away. When it comes to automated collection vehicles, what's happening a lot of times is there's coverings that move up. As the cart's moving up the truck and going ready to go in, there's also sideboards that come up and block a lot of that wind direction. So it's not perfect by any means, but it's not massively blowing all over. What we find is some of our customers won't even place their recycle cart out if it's a really windy day. They'll actually hold it and wait until the following week. We collect recyclables once a week, and we'll find some of our customers won't place the cart out that week. They'll place it the next week.
Yeah, I know that when before Edmund got the big carts with the lids, they were just those buckets. And I mean, I just had to keep it in the garage and pray that they came early the day of pickup.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to be sure I'm getting all these questions. Smaller communities may want to, but they have no idea where to start. And so I think that probably is something that's going to be a long answer.
It's going to be long. I'm going to try to shorten it up as quickly as I can. So in rural areas, what we've done in the past is we always keep a simple message. Start small. You can always work your way back up. And that's going to be start with paper and start with the plastic items. But the very first thing you do is find a recycler that can accept recyclables, and then what can they accept? And once you find out what they can accept, you can start your program from there. In rural areas, the largest challenge is going to be transportation, because recyclables are not very heavy with the exception of glass. Most recyclables are very light in weight, and they're bulky items, but once again, with the exception of glass, but your plastics are really bulky overall. They don't condense and press down well unless you're doing that already. So if you start your program up, I suggest in rural areas, always sort separate. Anytime you're within more than 40 miles from a mixed processing facility like us here in Tulsa or in Oklahoma City, separate your recyclables out, because when you get past that distance, unless the markets are very, very strong, your transportation is going to eat up any kind of a rebate that you may get for your recyclables, or increase your cost even more.
Do you have any recommendations?
Whoever has questions on that, though, I'm more than happy. They can contact me and reach out to me. We can get in really deep detail of exactly how to do that more. But that's kind of the abbreviated version: is find the recycler first, find out what they can accept, and also find out what they might be able to rebate for, and realizing that recyclables are commodity markets. So think of it like the stock market. It moves up and down. And once in a while you get a GameStop day where the prices go way up, and then, but a lot of times, they move up and down very quickly. Paper usually once a month, but all of our containers move daily. So you have to be very sure that you want to accept items that are going to be, we always accept items that are sustainable, long-term, domestic. I do not count on export markets for any recyclable. We won't recycle anything to an export market because it's too volatile. And China's a perfect example, and we've seen what's happened there.
Yeah. A quick question on, do you have any recommendations on shredded paper?
Shredded paper, if it's allowed in your program, and what you would do is, there could be two ways. If it's allowed in your program, find out how they want it. Do not place it in the cart loose. Shredded paper, if it's a mixed recycling program, shredded paper, due to its size, is going to drop through the screens and end up in the glass if glass is accepted. And then it's going to go ahead, if they don't have a glass cleanup system, it's going to contaminate the glass and they won't be able to market the glass. If they don't accept glass in the program, it's going to drop through the screens and go straight to waste, and it's never going to get recycled anyway. So you might as well throw it in the trash. So find out how they want it. Some facilities would want it in a clear plastic bag because they feel that's the easiest way. And some facilities like ourselves, we want it in a paper bag. So we ask them to place it in a paper bag, roll it up, staple it, or tape it shut. When it comes across our pre-sort before it introduces to the system, we'll remove that. And then at the end of the day, we take those and we break those open and put them in with our paper. And then we bail them up that way and recover it that way. So, but shredded paper, yeah, whatever you do, don't place it loose in a bin or a cart. It's going to do one of two things.
Okay, Robert, thank you so much. I'm going to have to let Chuck talk so we can keep moving.
Okay.
But thank you so much. And they can reach you at American Waste, right?
Yes, yep, they can reach me there.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Okay, Chuck, you can go ahead. So just really quickly, we're running behind, so everybody knows Chuck. One of our star affiliates and the city manager of Comanche, and we're looking forward to your talk. So I'm gonna shut off. You go ahead.
Can you allow me to share?
Yeah.
Screen.
Yeah. You should be able to now. Got it?
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Well, first off, if you're new to Zoom, there should be a scroll bar between my picture and the shared screen, so you can slide that left or right if you want to see more of me or more of the presentation. But thanks for letting me speak today. My name is Chuck Rawls. I'm city manager of Comanche. I've been with Comanche as city manager for about 5 years. Prior to that, I've been in several different industries, but I have about 22 years experience in design and rehabilitation and renovation of different products, from laboratories to petroleum industry to restaurants and businesses. So I took the experience I've had and applied it to our city, and I've been able to use that to improve the look of the community, the perception of the community. And so I'm going to share a few of those ideas with you and some things to look at. Try to put a little bit of a fun twist on it with the masks. I know that everyone is probably tired of the masks, but we'll get into this right now. And so antivirus, I don't know, we've all seen different types of masks and crazy masks. I think Norton missed a great opportunity here to market themselves and to diversify their product offerings. But I love this mask. Before COVID, we all had a preconceived idea of what a mask was. And, if I said to you, what is a mask? You may think in your mind, Lone Ranger, Freddy Krueger, or Dr. Fauci. We all have a little bit of a different concept on what a mask is, but we have to be in a position as we're going through our communities to recognize these masks and look for the opportunities when we see one. So what is behind the mask? I'll tell you, for me, I smile when I greet somebody at the grocery store or at Walmart. I walk through and I smile. That's kind of my greeting. And they can't see that anymore. I was doing a presentation last week and I was posing for a photo at the newspaper, and I'm smiling behind the mask. Why am I smiling? You can't see it. And so, what's behind the mask? You see this guy here, he's got all these different masks on that kind of look the same until you start removing the mask and he's got different expressions. So you don't really know what's behind the mask until you take a closer look or until you understand the situation and what's going on. We always make assumptions. We think this is what it is, but it may not be the case. Taking that same concept and applying it to, structures around your facility or around your city or your community. These are not from Comanche. They're just random ones that I picked. One of the things that I really struggle with, Marlow, the city of Marlow is a rival of Comanche. And I get tired of people saying, I wish that Comanche was as nice as Marlow. Well, Marlow has a nice main street going through town with big 100-year-old oaks, and it's just a beautiful city on Main Street. But every city, once you get off of that main drive, is going to have elements like these. And so this is some before pictures, and I'll show you the afters. And you can see there's always potential with everything, but you have to look past that mask and be able to recognize what you can do with that. Oh, so use caution. This is not a time to fall in love. I try to throw some funny ones in here. Sometimes a mask is a good thing. You never know what you may uncover when you get into a project. And I had a situation where we acquired a property, and I said, this is going to be an easy flip, nice renovation, and it'll be good for the community. I get in there, and it was termite ridden, unstructurally safe. It had a lot of problems. I was really excited about the project, and we ended up having to tear the building down, cost the city more money than I had planned. But you know, those are the risks you have to be willing to take. But don't fall in love with an idea. Be willing to change. You know, you have to adjust sometimes on the fly. And so when you take that mask off, these are some excuses that people don't wear masks. And I'll be honest, with the exception of probably 6 and 7, I've used every one of these. I hate masks. I hate that we have to do it, but I understand it is part of today's society. You know, too hot, fogs your glasses, difficult to breathe. You know, when you get down to 6, I've not worn one with the valves. I use the cloth masks that my grandmother loves to make masks, so I've got quite a few from her. And I don't exercise enough, so I don't exercise with a mask. But you know, you can see, I'm sure that most of you have probably used these excuses. Well, if you apply that to removing the masks in your community and you're trying to get volunteers, these are some excuses that they may use or that you may have used yourself. You know, it's too hot if you're doing something in the middle of the summer. I don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. Can't get the volunteers. How's it going to benefit me? You know, this isn't something I'm passionate about, so why should I get involved? This is a big one. My kids have sports or another activity, and we can't show up that day. It's never a good time. It's never convenient. And so you have to work past these. And my favorite one, oh, that was today. You run into the grocery store, you committed to be there today, and you didn't show up. You're going to run into these, and I've had every one of these excuses. Don't get discouraged. It takes time. It's a mindset that you have to overcome. Once they see the benefit of what you're doing, then they're going to step up and they're going to want to be a part of it. I now have people coming to me with great ideas on things that we can do to improve the community. And of course, I say, great, when are you planning it or when are you scheduling it? When, you know, initially they were like, I would like for you to handle that. I said, well, I've got other obligations and responsibilities. You take charge, I'll support you, I'll get the volunteers, I'll show up. And so, you know, it's getting past those mindsets, getting past the excuses and getting the work done. I love this picture. A mask may look cool to someone, but be offensive to someone else. So you may have someone decorate a yard or decorate a building that is just completely offensive to you, but it may be nice to them. You know, people have different tastes. I actually think this is a pretty cool mask, and if I could find one, I would probably wear it. But even if it doesn't work, you know, it's a pretty cool mask. But we all have Karens out there. And if you don't know what a Karen is, you can look it up. But they're going to complain whether you take the mask off or leave the mask on. If you improve it or if you don't improve it, there's always going to be someone to complain, and you have to be able to deal with those. And that's something that I really struggled with early on, was the criticism, because you know, I always want to please everyone. Before coming city manager, I did a pretty good job at that. Now I'm lucky that if I can please 50% of the people 50% of the time. But you know, as long as you're passionate about it and you think the community is going to support it, they may not support this project, but they're going to support the next one. And just like I said, don't get discouraged and moving forward with it. I did a little acronym here. You have to identify the viruses that are in your community. Some of the ones that we face, and I'm sure you do as well, community decline. That's, you know, people are dying or they're moving away. They leave a property that's abandoned. People just moving to other cities, whatever the case may be, that they're leaving. You have overgrown properties, and you know, you have to be mindful that some of these overgrown properties may be from seniors that just can't physically get out there and mow the properties. It may be someone that's in poverty or struggling to, single mom to buy groceries and her lawnmower broke. So don't be quick to judge. Go out. There's local churches that are willing to help, but try to provide resources for these people to get their properties mowed. It's not that they intentionally are doing it. However, there are some. Vacant buildings is another big problem that we have here. It's getting better, but businesses close because they're not making enough money to cover the cost of operations. Or for example, if they get a leaky roof and it starts flooding their building and they are just barely getting by and they can't afford to fix that roof, they just are forced to close and move out. Illegal dumping, we have tires, refrigerators, you name it, we've had it dumped in the city of Comanche, in our creeks. We do a lot of cleanup, and thankful to KOB for the resources and the support that they give in those cleanups. And then you have dilapidated structures. And this could be from fires, it could be storm damage, it could be vandalism, but these properties are just left to ruin, and they cause a major eyesore within your community. But you have to be able to identify what these viruses are, what these problems that your city or your community face, and then start developing a plan to fix it. Once you've identified the viruses or what's wrong with your community, then you have to kind of figure out the best approach to fixing it. You want to make sure that you get the right treatment. You've got a small cut, you put a Band-Aid. You can't put a Band-Aid on a broken arm. Tweezers for a splinter. They're going to be scalable. You may have a small problem that you can fix yourself. You may have a medium problem that takes a community, and you may have a very large problem that is going to require a doctor or someone that's a specialist to come in and help you and provide some advice. And one of the worst things that you can do is self-medicate if you're not prepared. Sometimes self-medicating will work, like if you've got a headache, but don't use other people's prescriptions. Hopefully you don't do that. I'm involved with some healthcare stuff, and that's a big problem in our area, and it gets people on addiction. But you think it's going to fix your problem. There's not always a one-step approach or a cookie cutter fix-all. What works in my community may or may not work in your community. It's good to go out and get those ideas and bring them back and kick the idea around. And if it's going to work, great. But don't force it, because you could end up with a bigger problem down the road. Know what your organization can do and what they can do well, but also know what you can't. If it's beyond your scope, beyond your capabilities, step back, take a look at it. For example, I had a group called Trail Life. It's very similar to the Boy Scouts, a little bit different mindset and principle. They approached me about doing a cleanup a few weeks ago, and they wanted to clean up a bunch of limbs in the park. And they said, "Can you bring the city chipper out?" And I'm thinking, well, I know this organization. They're 7, 8, 10-year-old boys. I don't know that I need them around a chipper. So I started asking the questions, and they were going to have 2 adult volunteers and a 17-year-old kid, and then a bunch of little kids. I said, it's probably not best for me to bring a chipper out there just for liability purposes. They didn't realize and recognize their limitations. I appreciate the effort. They piled it all up. They cleaned up the trash. Park looks great when they left, but I did not want to put them beyond their capabilities. You again need to recognize your capabilities for your organization, the number of volunteers that you have. If you can't do it yourself, you may need a specialist. Sometimes we need an expert. Doctors don't just have medical degrees. I've got 2 very close friends that actually are board members with KOB, Jennifer Wassinger and Paula Hofford. They are great specialists. I can do a lot. I have great ideas, but there's times when I reach my limitations and I have to go out people like this and say, hey, give me some ideas. Keep me out of the rut. Don't let me keep doing the same thing over and over. Give me a new perspective. And so they're amazing. There's a lot of people out there that you can go to that can provide you with new ideas. You can look at engineers, architects, environmentalists. DEQ is a great resource if you're dealing with environmental cleanups, contractors, lawyers. A lot of times you're going to run into situations that require a lawyer. or an attorney to help you, give you advice, deal with legal issues that may arise from dilapidated structures and things like that. Another good resource that I have is FEMA and Oklahoma Emergency Management. Call these people. They have resources available to you, many times free of charge, or they can put you in touch with people that may be able to provide you with funding. Shane, this morning, he with the OU IQC, they did a great project for us. I don't know if you can see this with the screen. Hey, you can see it kind of. They were great partners. I heard about it. I got in touch with OML. They did the grant assist, and they came in and we had a dilapidated structure. Bricks were down. It was nasty, and I can show you the pictures. But they came in with a group of students. They met with the community. They met with students, and they helped us come up with a comprehensive design plan for a library slash museum. The project's not been funded yet, but we have all the plans. And I keep using it over and over, applying for grants to be able to get the project funded. Organizations like that are vital to the success, especially if you do not have the experience that you need to on your own. So using a specialist often comes with an expense. And just like going to the doctor, I'm not going to the doctor because I don't have insurance and it costs too much. And or I'm not really that sick. It's denial and it's deferred, and it's just going to get worse if you don't. There are plenty of grants and funding out there that you can access. You just have to find them and be persistent. TSET grant, I've applied for it. That's the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. I've applied for it 6 times. They keep changing the rules. And I have to rewrite that application every time. I'm confident I'm going to get it on this current application. But be persistent. We had a good presentation this morning from Lisa Church. She's got a lot of information out there on grant opportunities. I encourage you to go back and watch her presentation if you didn't see it. But, sometimes you have to hire a grant writer. It's a good investment. I'll tell you, I lost track, but in 5 years, we're approaching $4.5 million in grants for the city of Comanche. And the largest one was 1.2 million. It should be starting March 1st for a new sidewalk project. But there is a lot of funding out there, and there's a lot of people that are not applying for those funds. I've got an organization, every time their funding cycle comes open, they call me and ask me to apply because they don't have enough applicants, and they understand that our funds, we're using it in a manner that they want it to be used. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. It may be a cost that you can't afford, but if you delay it or defer it, it's going to cost you a lot more down the road. So this is very important. Act quickly before the virus can spread. So I'm going to share a story. This house that's in the picture here, it burnt last week in Comanche. It was right on the corner of our main street. It was a very old home. It's been in the community. It's been an iconic home for many, many years, but you can see it from the main drive as you drive through town. It burnt, I believe, last Wednesday, and I knew that it was the individual that owned it was not going to be in a position to clean it up. I approached him on Monday, and I acquired the property on Monday because he needed some money to be able to get into an apartment. So I bought this house for $1,500. I already have plans in the work to get it cleaned up. And I already have plans for a grant that looks like I'm going to get to replace it with a nice commercial property. But all that happened from the time it burnt till we acquired the property and had it in our name, 4 days, 5 days. But I knew that if he left town, I would never find him again. It would be an abandoned property. It would be very costly. I would have spent more in attorney fees and legal fees and things like that just to be able to declare it a condemned building or dilapidated building, and then going through the abatement process, and the city would have had to pay to clean it up anyway. So now I have an asset and I can keep it from getting worse. We have other homes in town that have burnt and they've just left. You can't get a hold of the property owner. You can't go through the process. Well, then the neighbors suffer, may have a house for sale and it just goes downhill and it's perpetual and the fires can spread, through a neighborhood and ultimately through an entire part of the town. And so once you see something, act as quickly as you can to resolve that problem, and it'll make it a lot easier. And of course, quicker you can act, the less cost in most cases that you will incur. So this is an example of not acting quickly. You have one yard that doesn't get grown. Well, if they're not going to mow their grass, I'm not going to mow my grass. Or you have one bathroom stall where somebody puts a phone number on the partition, and then the next person thinks, well, if they can do this, I can write this. And you see some pretty vulgar stuff in those bathrooms, or even just tagging a building with graffiti. And it just starts with one, and then it continues on. So if you see something like that, address it quickly, clean it up, paint over it, and hopefully prevent the future spread of it. I love this meme. Should you be wearing a mask? No, we're protected by herd immunity. In closing, I hope you find ways to improve your community. Just be patient. Remove one mask at a time. You can't eat the elephant in one bite. You have to just take your time, deal with each issue as they come up, and pick your battles, and it'll work itself out. Unfortunately, herd immunity doesn't work in fighting blight, but a herd of people can make a real difference. And so find your herd, find your group of people that are passionate with you, give them the tools, give them the resources, and let them go. And that's, I think, the best approach that you can in removing the mask of blight in your community. Kind of rushed through that for time's sake, but I'm certainly available for any questions. Thank y'all for coming out today. Thanks, Jeanette, for putting this together, and all your staff. You always do an amazing job. I love attending your events.
Thank you so much. That was such a great talk. I love how you wove it all together with fighting the virus. And I will always remember, act quickly and address quickly. So if everybody wants to hop off of this and join the next link, we'll continue to talk there. Thanks, everyone.